Everyone, it's Cassandra Williamson coming to you from way up in a tight little holler in eastern Kentucky. That's where I am. McCoy Cemetery is not too far away. The Hatfield Cemetery is also not far away. They're right here. I'm right here in the middle of all of that. Yes, we come from a long line of fighters. Can't stand it kind of fighters. And that whole thing over the Hatfield McCoys, that was just about, at the end of the war, one was on the Confederate side and one was on the like each other, and they lived. One of their children decided to like a child from one and they got pissed about it. Not welcome. Union made in hell, according to them. So they carried their animosity toward each other a long way into the future. As a matter of fact, it took all the way. It stopped. Though there's some of those animosities still going around, and many of the families here today actually have, as would be normal in tight-knit McCoys and everybody all mixed up here. It was pretty small. So it says connection is moving in and out, and I'm probably freezing some on a because I think I unfroze. I unfroze for a moment. I don't know what's happening with the internet. I do live in a holler. The signal waves in and out up through here, even though it's on a wire. Freezing often. Yep, I got you. I got it down there in the private chat, Jamie. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. Hopefully it'll stabilize. I think there are some storms possibly getting ready to brew and move through, and that could pose problems. But if I do freeze, I don't know, light a match. See if that helps me or not. Hold it under the monitor. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate you being here. Quite a few things we could be talking about. What is today? Tuesday. The first thing I want to do is kind of mention to you some things about family. Took my mom in this morning for her lab work in preparation for meeting her kidney specialist again tomorrow. It'll be 6 months since the last time she met with them. And I don't know why I've got these scissors in my hands. What am I going to cut with that? I don't even know where they came from. Put them down. So anyway, the lab results and all that. I mean, I get it on my chart. It comes back and immediately lets me know there are a couple of high things on her blood work and her urinalysis that are very concerning. We do know that the filtration rate and all that kind of stuff that happens with the kidneys and the bladder and all of that, whatever that is down in that area there, it's still indicating stage 4 kidney failure. But she's been in that stage for now over 4 years. And it's very flat trend over those 4 years. So stability is good. Healing that problem is another challenge. There were some other things that needed to be addressed in her. They'll address it tomorrow when we go back and see. I just want family watching. If anybody is watching, you watch this later. I mean, and the hardest thing was that my sister is a phlebotomist at the Pikeville Medical Center. It used to be Methodist Center, but it's the Pikeville Medical Center. And it's a large hospital, very large hospital here in Eastern Kentucky. It serves 4 or 5 states. People come in from all over the place to Pikeville Medical Center. It's a really good hospital. But my sister works in the diagnostics lab, and she's the one who drew my mom's blood this morning. But the sad part, the hard part for family is that mom didn't recognize her daughter. And I know that hit my sister really hard. I know that did. And I know that hurt, and it will hurt for quite a while. And I get that. That's where we are right now. That's what we're dealing with. And mom was asking me on the way over there to the hospital. It's about a 35, 40-minute drive, 30-minute drive to get to the hospital from way up in this holler in Hardy, Kentucky. But she was asking me if she asked me, she turns to me and asked me, she said actually first, she goes, so I thought, and then she used my dead name, and she said, I thought this person was going to bring me over here today. And I'm looking a little askance at that. And she said it several times. And I said, well, it's me though. I'm taking you over there, Mom. And she said, okay. I was just worried. I didn't know what happened to dead name me. And she wanted to know who was going to take her to the hospital tomorrow, to the center, the kidney center tomorrow. And she said to Dad, me, is that person's going to take me over here tomorrow? And I said, well, it'll be taken care of, Mom. Don't worry about it. It's good. So she goes through these phases where it's really hard to deal with sometimes. But I try to do the best I can with that. It's difficult. It really is difficult because I don't care what she calls me. She gets it mixed up a lot. She gets her daughters-in-law mixed up. She's forgotten their names. She's forgotten her children's names, even looking at them. I know she can't see real well, but it really is, it's tough to be a caregiver in an environment or place like this. And not because of the place, but at the time in Mom's life, okay? It's not the place. The place is beautiful around here. These mountains are gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning, the vibrancy of everything around here. And she actually mentioned that to me as we were driving to Pikeville today. See, it's really pretty out here. I said, yes, it is. It really is surprisingly pretty here because I used to think this place sucked. I thought it was dirty, nasty, muggy, and dusty. But now it's a real pretty place. And we were talking about stuff like that. But then it's the questions that continually get repeated in different ways. This morning it was, what time am I supposed to be there? I said, Mom, it's just for a lab appointment. There's no time scheduled for it. The orders have been placed. You just go there when you can and as you can. That question occurred since last night repeatedly. Yes, well, actually yesterday afternoon when I told her about it all. So that gets to be a challenge. And then on top of that, you have to deal with the stuff with being a trans woman in America today. Not in Eastern Kentucky. I don't have a problem around here. I didn't have a problem down in Alabama either. When I was living down there with, I had no problem, but I was living in a relatively decent city like Tuscaloosa, which is a university city. Here, I'm not living in a city. I'm out in the woods, up a holler, and without a paddle. It's hard to get out of here. If it floods, you better stick around. You're not leaving. So, I mean, it's really, 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 really a challenge. And it weighs down on you constantly. You're constantly being, not here, but in the media, we're constantly being harassed and harangued every day. The 5 on Fox, just this evening. They can't say one thing. They can't have a show without mentioning how badly they think or how horrible they think trans people are. Yeah, I understand that, JB. Yep. So it's a challenge to deal with all of this stuff. And then, the medical issues mom's dealing with. But then that's not all. My brother is facing some serious, serious challenges too. Both lungs have blockages on them, big black masses. And his lungs are really, really elongated. I mean, stretched, elongated. Not genetically made that way, but stretched, elongated. And he has a hard time breathing. And he's supposed to have another scan coming up here to see if it's gotten even worse, to see if it's black lung maybe or something else. But he's already on oxygen, and he can't stand it because he has his man cave out in his shop where he works on cars and fixes cars for the family and his friends. And he's working on a little Alfa Romeo from 1987, and it was a graduate, Alfa Romeo graduate. And that thing's giving him a fit because it's hard to find any stuff for the thing. And it's hard to diagnose the problem on that car. Jeez. And it looks like somebody took something out and put something new in and didn't connect something else back up, or just left the part off. We don't know. We don't know how they did it. But the car, it's going to be a nice little car once he finishes with it. But it's for a friend. And his friends have brought him things like a 55 Chevy or something. It was red, bright red, beautiful little car. He does all this stuff, his specialized work on stuff, and he loves doing that. But he has to continually just stop and take a break and use his little air machine, or come back in the house and get on oxygen on the actual tank of oxygen. And there's a possibility of some heart blockages as well. And he's younger than me. And so I'm worried about him in a big way, because his situation is, mom's is bad, but my brother Gideon, his condition is worsening at an accelerating rate. And so you've got all of this. And then my sister, I came up here to take care of my mom and sister. And now it's mom, sister, brother, and helping out with my cousin. But I'm good with that. I am good with that because it's good to be needed. And so many people in the trans community don't feel like they're needed where they are. Every day they're facing challenges with people who are saying, you aren't worthy of anything. You get kicked out of the military for no reason other than the fact that you're trans. No matter how meritorious your career was. No matter how exceptional your career was prior to that. I know people who have been in the Space Force and the Air Force for more than 20 years, kicked out. They're space scientists. I know these people. They're good people. The only reason they were kicked out, Hegseth doesn't like them. He feels a certain kind of way toward them. I think maybe he has a fetish for trans women or something, because that's the only thing that would explain this. But it's more than that, though. Don't get me wrong. It's more than that. Because his religious training, his religious background, his very conservative religious beliefs, he carries with him into the Pentagon. And I know that, and I'm sure you know it too. His monthly prayer service is based on Doug Wilson from Moscow, Idaho. Hegseth moved his entire family to Tennessee to be near one of Doug Wilson's satellite churches in Tennessee. He believes like this man. He accepts this man for what he is saying, and he accepts what the church is putting out. Do you know what Doug Wilson is actually portraying? How many of you have watched the clip on CNN? It's been widely broadcast all over the place. So, but I want to back up before I jump into that, because I'm going to show you that clip here. It's only like 7 minutes long. But first thing is, if you haven't read War on Warriors and you want to understand Hegseth's thinking, he has a grievance with everybody who was leaders in the military prior to him getting into there. He was in the Army, got out as a major, but everywhere he went, he felt like he was whatever, challenged at it because of his political beliefs. He's always felt like he's been affronted by them and challenged by them and all of that kind of stuff. People who found out he was a Trump supporter and they go, no, we can't have you. And some of it's true, though. Some of it is true. He was treated that way, which is wrong. The New York National Guard treated him that way. The DC National Guard treated him that way. And those are valid concerns. Those are valid issues. Those units should never have kicked him to the curb because of his political beliefs. But when they did, they turned him into an enemy of them. And he carries that with him through today. His animosity towards women comes from his church and his religious beliefs and the pastors within that church. He has a long history of saying that women don't belong in combat, even though when he was in, and even now, there are women who can outperform him in every imaginable way in the military, as having been in combat and having flown jets and all kinds of other things. They're better than him in the combat arms. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like that. It challenges his masculinity. And come on, I mean, really, that's what this is all about. His masculinity is being challenged. It's challenged by trans women. Oh, so much so, because you know what we mean to him? We mean that masculinity is not permanent. There's no permanence to it. It's something debatable. He doesn't like that. He likes to have those consistent things, in his life where, he can look at a woman and say, I don't need you to be the head of the Naval Academy. I'd like for you to come to the Pentagon and be support staff for the Joint Chiefs. And that's what he did with Vice Admiral Davids. Highly qualified to lead the Naval Academy, but she got kicked out from the Naval Academy to the Pentagon to be in support staff, like a secretary. That's what he thinks of women. Like a secretary, got kicked out there so he could put in a Marine, a real man, to lead the Naval Academy. Now, look, I don't know the general from the Marine Corps who is leading the Naval Academy. He was in class of 91. I've never interacted with him at all. I don't know anything about him. It begs the question of Hegseth having picked him, though. That's kind of suspicious right there. So it makes me wonder a little bit, because I know from the War on Warriors that Hegseth was upset with the politicization of the National Guard and everything that was going on then. And he said he's not going to let that happen. If he ever gets a chance to fix it, he would. Well, look what he's doing. He's doing exactly the same thing, but he went all the way over to the ditch on the right. I mean, you're trading one ideology over here. It's wrong to do that too. And then trading it for another one over on the other side. And it's wrong to do that too. The military needs to be center road, no politics involved, and keep your darn religion to yourself, because the vast majority of them don't think like you, believe like you, or love like you. Phew. Yeah, got that out of the way. Anyway, War on Warriors, he starts out talking about women. And that they don't belong in any kind of thing like that. And then he participates. Well, actually, then he brings in the pastors from his church to lead prayer services in the Pentagon. But do you know the psychology of doing stuff like that? Do you know what that means? Here's the psychology behind it. The boss, the supreme commander of your space, your agency, your department, your Department of War, or whatever, Defense Department. He wants to change his Department of War. It was that, by the way, back in the early 1900s. But he's imposing all of these views of his on this whole system now. And he has a right to do that. That's why he was put in there. Granted, you got to support the president. These people serve at the will of the president. It comes from there too. Even though I think that Trump is just completely amoral and doesn't care about any of those things. He just manipulates people to put them in places where they can do something that they wanted to do all along. If you'll notice, everyone who's in a position of authority in different places or in secretarial positions or undersecretaries, they're the exact ones who have been railing against those organizations all along. And I don't think that Trump is putting them in there because he necessarily agrees with what they're saying, but he's putting them in there so that they can do what they want and he can get their votes. Power, 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 power. Anyway, so Hegseth is going around going, you know, women don't belong in combat. I'm going to bring in my pastors from my church to lead Sundays or lead monthly prayer services inside the Pentagon. You're invited in to come. The people who go, they don't know whether to go or not go because they happen to believe, and it's a valid concern, they happen to believe that if they don't go, they will be looked down upon and not be considered for some promotion somewhere along the line because they didn't rub shoulders with the right people in the prayer services, because that's what Hegseth likes. That's a power dynamic. It's one that is wrong here. And I bet, I'm willing to bet, they aren't having the 5 calls to prayer every day in that building from the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith. Bet they're not. I bet you don't see a row of mats on the floor, people bowing down every day to their belief system 5 times a day in the Pentagon. I bet you don't see that. I bet you don't see a Buddha in there anywhere either. Big fat Buddha. I'd love to see a big fat Buddha right in the command office of the Pentagon. That would be fun, wouldn't it? But I bet it's not there. My personal beliefs, I was raised as a Christian, but I do not think it has any place in our government whatsoever. I was raised as a Baptist, a Southern Baptist. That's where I went to church. Also, well, my dad was Church of God, so that was, you know, the calm, cool, collected Baptist over here, and then the wild, crazy, running around, laying on hands Church of God over on this side. Yeah, that might explain a lot of the split personality, right? No, I had fun at both of them. But I've got some experience with some of these different Christian nationalist views. I actually worked 6.5 years for Kenneth and Gloria Copeland down in Texas. And I was also elected to be the county chairperson for the Republican Party in the county I lived in. And I was horribly wrong. I was so horribly wrong. Oh my God. I remember calling up a friend of mine in 1997. Actually, he called me. A friend of mine from Annapolis. He was in my company. We graduated together. He was super smart, and I had no way of comparing with him because he was just, he had a better than 4.0 GPA from the Naval Academy. And I don't recall him ever picking up a textbook, but it was in mathematics. And I'm going, yeah, this person, good friend, could tell you the names of every top 10 song from 1960 for every month. And I'm thinking, oh my God, really? So when do you study? Wait, he just picked it up and looks at it. He goes, click. Oh yeah, okay, got it. And I have to look at it and go, let me set that thing down. I need an interpreter. Extremely smart. But he calls me up and he says that he's gay, that he had married his partner, that he was happy and very glad. He was. Some people knew at the academy that he was gay, but I didn't. He kept that from me. I guess he knew I was from the hollers of Eastern Kentucky. He knew that. He and some of my friends actually came back here and visited with my parents. And Dad, of all people, Harry had this a phone in a bag thing. Remember phones in a bag? This big satchel that had a phone in it. It was just goofy, crazy, huge thing. Dad Now this was in 90 or 83. I think it was 83. Yeah, 83. And Dad looks at me and he goes, "Come on, let's go to the store for a minute, and we'll be right back, y'all." Get in his car, and the very first thing he said was, "Now you know I don't like gay people here, right?" And I said, "Dad, what are you talking about?" And he said, "That one in there with that bag, that person's gay." And I said, "Dad, I've known Perry a while. I don't think so. I don't care one way or the other. It doesn't matter to me." But Dad said, "I think he's gay." And that was in 83. And I didn't know. Dad did. He spotted it. So he made sure to let me know about that. And I said, "Well, Dad, I don't think so. That's just a phone in that bag." Dad said, "He's carrying a purse." And I said, "Dad, that's a phone in the bag." I wasn't paying a lick of attention to any of it. My eyes were not open. So when Perry called me in 1997 and said, "You know, I'm gay. I'm married now, married to my partner. I'm very happy, and I just wanted to let you know that." And the words out of my mouth were, "Well, you know, I don't believe in that stuff, but I always thought you were the smartest cookie in the room." And I remembered that conversation all the way up to 2017 when I had to make a phone call. 20 years after that first phone call, I called up my friend and I said, "Perry, I need to apologize to you. The very first thing I said to you 20 years ago, it stuck with me, and I knew I was wrong then, and I know it now." And he said, "I don't remember what you said." I said, "Well, here's what I told you, and I'm sorry for that. I was wrong. I'm transgender." And Perry goes, says, "Well, welcome to the family." And just like that. And I've met Perry since then. I've visited with him in his home. No, not in his home, but out in the town in Tucson, Arizona, because he was working at one of the community colleges there. So we've had some interesting times. We've come a long way. We've changed a lot. And so right now, though, it's 27 after. I'm going to show you a clip from Doug Jones. This man reminds me so much of what Kenneth and Gloria Copeland believe. Very subtle, very quiet. He lets other people do some of the talking to tell everybody about what he actually believes. But his associate pastors also, they speak what they mean and what the church believes and what Hegseth believes. Why do you think he would move his family to the church in Tennessee? Here's the clip. Let me pull it up here. And I'm going to go with a live or a local video. Let me go get a local video off my computer. This is from CNN. It's been broadcast all over Twitter, all over X, all over different places, Vanity Fair and all kinds of places. It's been all over the place. So this is from CNN just a couple days ago.
Christchurch senior pastor Doug Wilson, no apologies for his beliefs on God and tree.
I'd like to see the town be a Christian town. I'd like to see the state be a Christian state. I'd like to see the nation be a Christian nation. And I'd like to see the world be a Christian world.
And now Wilson's controversial views as a Christian nationalist are gaining sway in the nation's center of power with the recent opening of his new church and high-profile parishioners like Defense Secretary.
So that church right there is in the same building as the Heritage Foundation. I've been there, not to that door, but you go around the corner and there's a little, well, that might be the bistro side of the building right there, down right in that side. It's right there. So here we are. This is Doug Wilson creating a church in D.C. And I don't have a problem with him creating a church in D.C., but what I have a problem with is his influence in the government.
Pete Hegseth.
Is planting a church in D.C. part of your mission to try to turn this into a Christian nation?
Yes. So every society is theocratic. The only question is who's theo? In a secular democracy, it would be demos, the people. In a Christian republic, it'd be Christ.
Well, what would you say to someone watching this to say, look, I'm a Muslim. Who are you to say your worldview is better than mine, that your God is better than mine?
Well, if I went to Saudi Arabia, I would
What's the
fully
not answer?
expect to live under their God's rules.
But you said earlier that you want this to be a Christian world.
Yes.
So you want to supplant their religion with your Christian.
Yes, by peaceful means, by sharing the gospel. There's a lot of work yet to do. I believe that we are working our little corner of the vineyard.
Wilson's Little Corner, a picturesque campus nestled on the outskirts of downtown Moscow, Idaho, is growing by the day with thousands of like-minded Christians. Parishioners of his church, known as Kirkers, own and operate several businesses downtown, next to liberal college town stores.
If it's true,
Why did he yell boo? Because it's
because of me.
because of you.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
That's a regular day for you.
That's not unusual.
A big focus of his Christian movement is on a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
Really? Oh my God. You know how offensive that's a true statement. That's true. But boy, oh boy, it is very, very ignorant.
So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's
Well,
it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically.
Oh,
The
really?
wife and mother, who is the chief executive
You
of
should
the
try.
home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue
No,
for you?
And no, it's not automatically an issue.
Josh and Amy Prince,
That automatic part? Yeah. Now, if she's married to her wife, that'd be a totally different story, right? Oh my God. This guy needs, I would say he needs an Andrew Jackson kind of treatment out behind the building in the barn.
along with their 4 kids, moved here from Washington State.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no, in the sense that we're both saved by grace. We're absolutely on equal footing, but we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself
James
as the
Brooks.
head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household.
He is.
Yes, and I do submit to him.
So like moving here
I was just
was
gonna say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
That's a great
example.
example.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow
Hear that? Wilson says that as a society, women should not be able to vote. Okay.
pastors Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same
Right.
person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on
Really?
the basis
Oh my
that
God.
the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the
So it shouldn't be in leadership or combat roles. And you wonder where Hegseth gets it. And people are asking me about, but Hegseth hasn't said anything like that directly. He doesn't have to. We know who he is. We know what he believes. We know where it comes from. Now he may come out and do something like, who was that? Peter? When somebody asked him if he knew Jesus and he denied him 3 times and then the cock crowed. Hegseth might come out and say something similar to that. And he did it in his confirmation hearings too, when he was talking about women in combat. They asked him specifically about that because he wrote about it in War on Warriors. When asked whether women should serve, he said, I've served with a lot of really good women in combat. There've been some good ones in there. And he didn't answer the question directly. He's a politician answering a question with platitude. Oh my God. So you start connecting the dots and you begin to see this is who these people are. Now let this continue because I could talk forever.
leadership page for Christ Church,
Right.
it's all men, do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
All the time.
Progressive faith leader Reverend Jennifer Butler is concerned about Wilson's growing influence.
He is rapidly gaining in power. He has hundreds of churches established around the country. They actually literally want to take over towns and cities, and they have access to this administration.
Wilson is part of a broader Christian nationalist movement making inroads with the Trump administration, with a newly created faith office led by evangelical.
And I know that he is one of those who is probably completely upset with Trump for selecting Paula White. Trump's playing the politics side of this thing because he put a woman in there as head of the faith council, knowing that there were religious leaders like Doug Wilson who objects to that. Trump is a political animal, amoral, complete political animal. I know that Wilson and probably even Hegseth, and I know that Kevin Roberts at the Heritage Foundation and also the Opus Dei vice president all oppose this, but Trump knows it's a political advantage for him to let some women be in power in places and have some influence. He knows that. He's got Linda McMahon in there as education, and that just blows you out of the water, doesn't it? So let me drop out of this for a second. It's just going to go on like that for just a little bit. All right, so part of what I've had to do over many, 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 many years is connect dots to things. Connect this and see if it goes here. And if it goes there, then what comes next possibly, and then anticipate what comes after that. That's how you know what the likely outcome would be. It doesn't tell you that it is the actual, complete, honest, 100% possible outcome. It tells you that the likelihood is this is what's being done. Now you start looking at the Department of Defense and you see that that's exactly what Hegseth has done. So I'm going to give, let me pop into Jamie here a minute because Jamie's been hanging out over here with me. Why, hello there, my friend from Michigan. I can't hear you.
Finally got some badly needed rain today.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Was it really dry? When's the last time it rained up there?
Before it rained this today, we had about a 5-inch deficit for the year. They had 6 inches of rain in Milwaukee on the other side of the lake, and we got nothing there last Friday. And usually the weather goes from west to east, and it missed us completely.
You know what they say down here in the South, close to Tennessee? We just blame it on Al Gore.
Well, yeah. Where's the ice caps? Huh? Well, they're still there.
Yeah. They may be a little smaller, but they're still there.
Well, the South Pole, they said, is growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that was the last thing I heard too. But who knows, right?
Well, whatever's going to happen happens. It's going to happen with or without us. So
Yeah. Did you see the one today where the United States is thinking about pulling out of the International Maritime Organization?
No, I haven't heard that one. What would that mean? I mean,
well, this is what it is. The International Maritime Organization has 172 some members in it, 172, 176 member states, and they've been talking about that most of the member states have agreed to some efforts to reduce global greenhouse gases. And the United States told them flat out, if you agree to all of this, there will be penalties imposed on the other members of this organization if they don't stand up against it.
Well, I mean, if you tell China, that they can get away with things that they expect us to comply with, that's wrong.
No, that's absolutely right. You're right about that for sure. There should be no if it's going to apply to one, it has to apply to all. and it hasn't.
Right.
And that's why it's so horrible that you have known human rights abusers on the human rights part of the United Nations. I mean, it's just baffling. Oh my gosh, it really is. So, yeah, I saw that today. Let me see what else is coming out. Oh, and here's one for you from the Daily Beast. It says the White House will enforce MAGA history on the Smithsonian museums. As a matter of fact, this person, who is she? This person, Lindsay Halligan, she is a member of President Donald Trump's legal team. She appointed herself as a Smithsonian evaluator, and she's the one who actually persuaded the president to go in and say, write an executive order to the Smithsonian and all of its museums that they had to put in only MAGA approved history.
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. And so she's going around checking all the monuments and all of the stuff and all the displays and making sure it doesn't talk about gender, doesn't mention trans people. That's literally what her goal is. Make sure none of that stuff is mentioned. And let me see what she actually said right here. I'm looking at this article.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I was against when they took away all the Confederate history, because the Confederate history, I mean, to destroy that and deny all this stuff happened, it wasn't good, because it should be there so that we can say, this was a bad thing. We shouldn't do it, and people can look at it, and not forget about it. But if all this stuff had got destroyed, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really bothers me about all of that is that most of those museums, most of those monuments, most of those statues and things like that, they were put in by women of the Confederacy. There's an organization that they were involved in, that they were part of, and they did it in the late 1890s and up through the 1900s. And they specifically put them in counties where there was a larger population of Black people as reminders. And they actually said this when these monuments were erected, and they had the little ceremonies for them on city squares in Alabama. They were saying this is a reminder to the Black people of their place in our society. That's what was told to the people at some of those ceremonies in Alabama.
But what they should have done then was keep that, but take down, that sort of I guess theory or whatever. I mean, and basically spell out history as it really happened. But at least have the statues and I guess reteach, the way that history should be remembered, not that you guys were slaves and this is how it should be or whatever, So not to glorify it, but to remember it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I do. It's hard to draw that line, though, when you know that the leaders of these communities at that time actually said these things and they made it into print.
I mean, everybody should recognize, like Adolf Hitler. I mean, everybody's calling, Hitler and then fascist. I mean, these people should be fresh in everybody's mind and know exactly what Hitler stood for and what he did, and being called a name, that these people realize that that's not a true description of who this is or whatever, So, in that way, I think that it's good to remind people about what history, what really happened.
Me too. It's good to remind them of that, and then make sure that they understand, particularly around the Civil War stuff and all the slavery stuff, is that Gone with the Wind wasn't true.
Yeah.
That was a Pollyannish view of slavery where everybody was happy and they all got along, and that may have happened with one or two people, leaders and the slave population, but And that's not the majority of it. I've got a book back here that I haven't opened up yet. I've already knocked my little roses.
Can't have nothing nice, can we?
No. But anyway, so this book came in today, but I already have read the memoirs of this person from the Civil War. And it's really fascinating to me because it's the memoir of Senator Williamson S. Oldham, CSA. He was a senator in the Confederacy from Texas.
Yeah,
there it is.
That's not a name.
Rise and fall of the Confederacy.
That's not a name. That's not a name familiar to me. I guess I have to check him.
No. Williamson S. Oldham. It only struck me because one, it's got my name as his first name. My last name is his first name, and I don't know why. I haven't figured that out yet. So that fascinated me to start out with. And when I was living in Texas, I started doing a lot of research, digging into. It wasn't actual scientific research. It was just me digging around in sources. So I started finding out things. I was living in a little county called Wise County, Texas. And Wise County, you would see this flag all over the place.
Yeah.
Everybody had one of these in their yard, just about, except me.
That was like that when I was in South Carolina, being in the Navy. When I went, back to a couple of different sailor buddies, we'd go down to South Carolina for the weekend, and that's the way it was. I mean, everybody had a pickup truck and a Confederate flag and a gun rack in the back.
Oh, of course. Some do here too. Now.
Well, you're kind of on the dividing line where you're at right now. I mean, that's just about the Dixon line territory.
Yeah, it is. It really is. That's for sure. But anyway, when I was doing that digging, I found out that there were a couple of counties in Texas that did not vote to join the Confederacy. They voted against that action. And Wise County was one of them. And they had conveniently left that out of their history. They didn't want anybody to know that. From the courthouse on down, nobody talked about it. Nobody. But it was in the reports from the elections and voting when Texas decided to cede.
Well, they still went along with it, whether they agreed with it or not. They still cited it.
Oh yeah. They went along with it. Absolutely, they did go along with it because that's how constitutional republics work, right? I mean, absolutely, got it. This person, I came across this person too while I was doing all that digging, and read his memoir. Some of his memoirs that I found, they were just loose documents and things, but this person made it very clear. He said, I am not an apologist in the same vein as Jefferson Davis, who wants to make you think that it wasn't over slavery, when in fact it was exactly over that. That's why you can respect a person like that. You disagree with some things that they did or that they believed in, but he tells you exactly the truth. And so, anyway, I get a kick out of that. I like doing stuff like that just to show people that there are multiple sides to things. And family are the funnest ones.
I still got to do some digging on there to see what the rift between McClellan and Ulysses Grant was. They're both cousins to me, but I had heard that there was a big rift. I heard like little bits and pieces. Basically, it seemed like McClellan wanted to take his time, be more calculated, and Grant wanted you to rush in there and take care of business and be done.
Yeah. That would be interesting to know what caused that rift. I hope it wasn't over a pig and a girl. Like back here in the hills. It didn't take much for people to fight over things back then, apparently.
That's true.
I was reading an X post, a Twitter post the other day, and it was anti-communist, and it chatted a little bit here and there, and whatever, and so I came out and finally asked him. I said, "So, if you're an anti-communist, does that mean that you're also an anti-fascist?" And this person, I don't know who they are, anything about them. They like to hide behind these fake names and stuff, and I'm just all out there in your face.
Yeah.
So, but the reply back was, "No, absolutely not. I am not an anti-fascist." And then he enumerated some names that it took me a minute to figure them out, at least two of them anyway.
Yeah.
So those names were, the first one was Paul, the second one was Franco, and that would be the fascist leader of Spain in World War II and
Yeah.
afterward. The third one was Trump. The fourth one was Uncle Addie, Addie, Uncle Addie. I didn't know who Paul was, and I didn't know who Uncle Addie was. I knew they had to represent something because of the other two, at least Franco anyway. I know who he was exactly. So I started doing a little digging, and Paul happens to be the first name of Joseph Goebbels. His name was Paul Joseph Goebbels. Uncle
That ain't
Addie,
no-
I didn't know it either. Uncle Addie, this one took me a minute. I searched for Uncle Addie, then I searched for Addie, and I spelled it a different way and searched with one D. Finally found something. Adolf Hitler enjoyed it when his officers would bring their kids around and they would call him Uncle Addie.
Oh,
Uncle Addie or Addie. And his officers even got to calling him Addie. And he actually enjoyed that little nickname for himself, Addie, short for Adolf.
yeah. Well, that was my great grandma's name, Addie Bell.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
But she heard it didn't translate as Adolf, though, did it?
Oh no.
No.
She was Addie Bell McClellan.
Oh, okay. You got that family name all the way back to the Civil War.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's cool. So anyway, we've been at it about 50 some minutes. You want to say anything else, Jamie, before we get off here?
Not too much, but I will say that I'm working on my trip overseas. Leaving out about the middle of November, heading over to Scotland, going from the west coast to the east coast, and then going to Barcelona and do some touring there, and exit with Barcelona. So,
Mm-hmm. You gonna make it up into the Basque Country, or just down in Barcelona?
yeah, it's gonna be just to the northern part.
Okay. Well,
My friend that it was an exchange student was he lives in Zaragoza, which is directly west of Barcelona, and I would like to be able to get a train pass and do some tours around there. I do have tours already booked through Scotland. All the arrangements are made, so just basically arrive and take all my stuff and go from one end of the country to the other, and then exit out to Spain.
Yeah, that sounds great. My goodness, sounds really like a really good trip. How long will you be gone?
It'll be at least 2 weeks, maybe just a little bit more, but not too much more.
Well, I'm excited for you. That's a great tour right there. That sounds awesome.
I had to fight real hard to get my passport, but by God, I got it.
Good. Good. That is fantastic. Oh my gosh. I know you'll have a lot of good memories from that trip. You ever been over to any of those areas before?
I've been to Barcelona when I went in the Navy. I went to Barcelona, Valencia, and Palma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never made it to Rota?
Well, I got to anchor there. I mean, being on an aircraft carrier, you can't have 6,000 people on shore in Rota. It
Yeah,
was the
no.
same thing there in Guantanamo Bay. All the officers and everybody got to go to shore, but we got to sit there and look at land, and that was it.
Well, that sucks for those officers, doesn't
Yeah, it's a tough business. But I mean, when I was in there too, you had women that were officers. They were pilots. They couldn't even spend the night on the ship. They could fly on, but they had to leave. They couldn't spend the night on the ship, even in the stateroom. So it was a
Wow.
much different Navy back when I was in the Navy.
Same here. Yeah, they dare not ever put a woman on a submarine. Finally did though.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Back in the days when the ships were made of wood and the men were
I'm
made of
sure
iron.
that Pete would probably like to have it that way again.
Oh, of course he would. Absolutely would. It's pretty much Pollyannish of him to think so, but hey, that's whatever.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
I think he's going to have a hard time taking some of those positions away from women.
yeah, it's going to be difficult. They can't. You're not going to be able to do it. They will cause an uproar in this country like you've never seen before. You think the
All
suffragette?
they got to do is grab onto the abortionist, and I think that they've got somebody for an ally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You want them to roll back your rights next? You don't take care of us? That's exactly what they'll do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you think that they it looks like they'd like to roll it back to when women couldn't go to the bank and create their own checking account.
Yeah, they ain't that smart. You got to let the guy do it. You can talk about it, but the guy's going to make the decision.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what they want. I mean, that's what those two preachers said, or the associate pastor said.
I see that. Yep.
Yeah, that's what they want to do. Mm-mm-mm. Well, folks, I've got to run, check on people, and tomorrow I got to take my mom back to Pikeville to go to the kidney doctor. So y'all have a good evening, and we'll talk later.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.